Hello, everybody. Today I will be presenting my Pechacucha on Frederick Jameson's article, The Cultural Logic of Late Capitalism, Parts 5 and 6, and this article was published in 1991. A little bit of backstory on Frederick Jameson. He was born in Cleveland, Ohio in 1934 and is one of the world's best known Marxist theorists. He earned his bachelor and master's degree at Haverford College and went on to earn his doctorate at Yale, where he eventually became a professor. He was also a professor at Harvard University as well as California universities of both San Diego and Santa Cruz. After reading all of Jameson's The Cultural Logic of Late Capitalism, I've come to find that in parts 5 and 6, one key characteristic of postmodernism is that of the aspiration to be a total and complete space in which reality becomes a part of the simulacrum. A quote from Jameson: I believe that with a certain number of other characteristics, postmodern buildings, such as the Beaubourg in Paris and the Eton College in Toronto, the Bonaventure aspires to be a total world, a kind of miniature city, to this new total space. Meanwhile, corresponds a new collective practice, a new mode in which individuals move and congregate, something like the practice of a new and historically original kind of hypercrowd. This theory starts with the idea that postmodern structure no longer looks the way it used to during late capitalism, but that these new and updated buildings are popular and that they don't try to transform ideologies into reality, but instead they embrace the imaginary. Jameson goes on to explain that in opposition to postmodern buildings, modernist buildings paved the way for the passage from the streets into the interior, and postmodern buildings such as the Bonaventure make you work to be a part of this inner space that's separated from reality. Again, in opposition to modernist culture, postmodern buildings are not trying to create a utopian transformation of the rundown city, but rather, postmodernism seeks to separate itself from the fallen city or the rundown world that surrounds it. There's a sense of irony in the postmodern creation of the Bonaventure, a place that separates itself from the outside streets, yet it draws people in with its dazzling entryway and its gaudy windows, which not only repel the outside world, but also reinforce dissociation and distorts the view of everything around it. Jameson even says, ideally, the monicity of Portman's Bonaventure ought not to have entrances at all, since the entryway is always the seam that links the building to the rest of the city that surrounds it. For it does not wish to be a part of the city, but rather its equivalent and replacement or substitute. Many of us may not be familiar with the Bonaventure Hotel, but it reminds me of the feeling that you get after you walk into a hotel after a long day of traveling, where all of your worries just melt away and seemingly nothing matters anymore. It's the feeling that postmodernism architecture strives to give. Another example of this would be the magical utopia of Disney World, as Jameson described postmodern architecture as being a city of its own. Disney World is quite literally a world of its own. With its 42.5 miles, 4 theme parks, which would be considered postmodern, as theme parks are not considered part of high modernist culture, over 25 resorts, there is no reason to leave the parameters of Disney World, except to escape the imaginary happiest place on earth. While Disney World does not have literal glass windows, it does distort the image of the outside world as messy and unmagical, creating a simulacrum that its visitors are encapsulated in as they see the imaginary become reality with seemingly real rides that take you on a tour across the world or characters that make their way from the TV screen to being right in front of you. Along with the imaginary becoming reality, Disney also has aspects of congregation and movement that Jameson mentions on page 40. This place is filled with a hypercrowd that is excited to be in the happiest place on earth. Family and friends meet here for vacation, conventions are here, and sporting events are held here. This place is a never-ending movement in congregation. Jameson also mentions a collective practice in which Disney World would be believing. Disney has two catchphrases, the aforementioned the happiest place on earth, and the other is seeing is believing. Make this collective practice of believing makes it so that any one child or adult believes in the imaginary. Seeing is believing again reinforces the ideology of the simulacrum and even the schizophrenic ideology that Jameson talked about in earlier pages. This practice creates an idea that what you believe is what you really see, making Disney World feel like the perfect world rather than an imaginary capitalist idea. And now I will show you guys a video.